Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. This is Simon with AvaTrade. I want to welcome everyone to our weekly trading plan webinar. And of course, a special welcome to the new people. And whatever you read in the title, that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a plan for the week. And as traders like to say, you plan your trade, then you trade your plan. And of course, there's no guarantee of succeeding, but definitely with more planning, there's less chaos, and not just in trading, in anything else. Okay, a few things about myself. This is me, Simon Friedman. I'm a senior account manager with AvaTrade. My overall experience is 23 years since I started to trade. I was a day trader at a proprietary firm back in New York. I did it for about 11 years. A lot of fun, a lot of stress. That's why after 11 years, I moved into a less intense way of trading, and I started also to mentor and educate other traders. And currently, I'm very happy that I have an opportunity to assist our customers at AvaTrade. Okay, the agenda of the webinar, we talk about indices, stocks, commodities, and Forex, pretty much the same agenda every week. And this is the risk warning. You can find a full statement at avatrade.com. What we do here, it's purely educational. We do not suggest, of course, any trades. Now, these are the channels that I highly recommend for you to use. You have Telegram, you have Twitter, and my favorite that I always say, YouTube channel, which is updated daily. You have a lot of educational material there. You have tutorials, you have most of the webinars. If you miss a live webinar, you can always find it on YouTube and watch it at your convenient time. And I would like to ask you for a favor. If you like this webinar, if you are watching it on YouTube, please don't hesitate to like it, to put the likes, share it if you think somebody can benefit from it, and definitely subscribe to it so you can receive updates. And also, I think you need to click on that bell so you'll be notified. So please do that. It just takes a second. And I would really appreciate your feedback. And this way we know what can be improved. You might have some questions, some comments, always welcome. Thank you for that. And let's start. Let's start actually with economic calendar. And again, for new people that are not familiar with economic calendar, this is a public information that's being posted. Where you can find economic calendar on our web trader and also on the app. And you can find it anywhere by just Googling economic calendar. There's a lot of providers. This is all public information. There's no secrets here. And traders usually like to be aware ahead of time of certain things that are happening, special events, special announcements. Some events are more powerful as far as affecting the market, some are less. So here I just take out the high impact events, and there are more of them. So you can find whatever is relevant to you and see if that's something that helps you. So for the upcoming week, on Tuesday, we have durable goods from US. We have consumer price index inflation numbers from Canada. Wednesday, we have CPI numbers from Australia. And something that's very serious, a bank stress test info. So what it is, the banks are being actually tested, something they call stress test. How they do in certain situations, how the dealing, is it enough money to pay to depositors and so on. So this is a serious test, and we'll take a look at the banks when we get to the charts. Banks have been under a lot of stress there. It's funny enough, the same words being used in the stress test. So definitely an important event for this week. Thursday, we have retail sales from Australia. We have CPI numbers from Germany. We have GDP, or gross domestic product, from US. And Friday, we have another data from China. We'll be talking about China a lot today. PMI numbers, and we have a GDP number from UK, retail sales from Germany, and CPI numbers from European Union. So you have a lot of data. You can see what's relevant. Again, you can find more of mid-impact and low-impact events. I just chose the high impact here. Okay, that's pretty much what we are having this upcoming week. Okay, so big picture. Actually, that's a scary picture there. I'll be talking about it in a moment. So last week, let's just cover the last week first. We had Powell testifying in front of the Congress on Wednesday and Thursday. He pretty much on the same page. The message is the same. There are more increases coming of interest rate as they are in the process of continuing fighting the inflation and bringing it down to 2%. So that was last week. We had certain things on the news, something that concerned China. We had Blinken visiting China, and then we had President Biden calling the leader of China a dictator. There was the reactions from China. So the whole idea of Blinken going there, as we discussed last week, is to soften the tensions, and it looks like so far it's not really happening. There's a lot of tension there as far as the policies and everything else. So that's something that happened last week. Now, on the good note, we had the Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India visiting Washington, and things are getting better between U.S. and India. And they had, I guess, some agreements going on that includes military. And as U.S.-China relations are deteriorating, it looks like U.S.-India relations are getting better. So, which is good for both countries' economies. And the World Bank projects the India's growth will be about 6.9% this year. And also the imports of U.S. goods to India grew more than doubled from 2016 to 2022. And last year, the total goods sent to India were to the amount of $47 billion. So things are getting better there, which is good. Now, over the weekend, I don't know if you had a chance to see or hear the news. I think that was all over the place. President Biden had emergency phone meetings with European leaders. That was a threat pretty much of a civil war, if you want to call it that way, as the leader of Wagner Group basically took over one of the cities in Russia, and him and his troop were actually moving towards Moscow. And the last moment, it looks like the government and this guy Prigozhin, they reached the agreement, so he turned around and stopped his move towards Moscow. So there was a lot of alarms there, and let's see what we hear this week. But definitely there's some internal processes in Russia, and it's not pleasant. And overall, the war is still there, and things are not stopping for now. So let's see what we hear this week from Russia. Of course, it affects everything, includes the market. So as you could see, this title, you can find it, the article on marketwatch.com. It says right here, the rebellion in Russia could trigger sell-off in U.S. stocks and flight to save assets. But that was before they reached the agreement. So let's see what we hear next from that part of the world. Okay, let's move to MT4. And as I mentioned, we'll start with China. China has been selling off as a lot of companies are pulling out. They have their own economic issues there. The government is trying to do to make some moves and actions toward injecting some funds or whatever they can do. I think last week we had a decrease in interest rate, but apparently it's not helping. We are having a sell-off the whole week. The Chinese market sold. And with that, as you know, regularly I bring few assets. That is copper. Copper sold with it, crude oil, sold with it as well. And the currencies, Australian and New Zealand dollar, that are being strongly affected by Chinese economy, as they are suppliers of goods. And take a look, Australian dollars sold and New Zealand dollars sold as well. So China is having issues, and it looks like the issues are continuing. Now, all other indices, before we go to US, also even Nikkei, which was the strongest one, while Friday is actually sold. There was a strong sell-off on Friday. And let's go to US indices. All three of them actually had a first negative week. That's NASDAQ after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks to the upside. The first week in red. S&Ps 5 positive weeks before we just turned red last week, and Dow Jones 3 positive weeks. We broke through this resistance around 34,200 and we're right back into it. So that's US indices. Again, a lot of pressure on it. Let's see how this week, with all the geopolitics and the bank stress and maybe new establishment or new ideas as far as the US Feds and what's happening, we'll probably hear new things and see if the market is just taking a small correction before going higher, or this is the turnaround and we might start selling here. So let's see what's the situation. Now, just to bring it up, the VIX, some call it fear indicator, is trading at really lows between $12 and $13. It's a super low level, and that might signal that the market might be overbought, and maybe we'll see some moves to the downside. So that's as far as the US indices. Now, UK index is down the whole week. There was an interest rate increase, and it was more than expected. It was a 0.5% increase. So that affected the market in a negative way. And of course, a British pound was affected as well. So we are kind of playing or approaching this recent level of support of around 74.42. Let's see if we hold there. DAX as well, a whole week to the downside. And on DAX, we are below this level, 16,000 or 22. So if we are staying below it and start building up a resistance, we might actually accelerate the move to the downside. And French index as well, it went down with gaps. So across the board, all the equity indices are down. And let's see how this week starts. Like I said, there's a lot of pressure, and also there's uncertainty building up around Russia. Let's see what news are coming out in this week. So that's as far as indices. Let's move to stocks. The stocks, of course, are down as well, but there are a few stocks that really didn't show any weakness. So let's just go through them really quickly. So Microsoft is holding, even though it had a little bit of a correction, but it's holding. But Apple and Facebook didn't go down at all. They are sitting on highs. So Apple closed at 186.5 almost. And also Facebook, or Meta, if you want to call it by the real name that was changed, it's trading at 288. So when the market went down this week, these stocks didn't really sell. So something to pay attention. Now, on the other stocks, Netflix had a little bit of a correction. Google, as you remember, I mentioned after this move down on the 6th of June, when the market was going up, Google sold. So it remains below that initial move to the downside. Not much strength there. Disney, we mentioned last week that CFO is leaving. The stock sold. We are trading around 88, approaching this recent low. If we do break that, it opens a possibility of continuation to lower levels here. It looks like we are holding this support for now. Also, we spoke about Johnson & Johnson last week. We did reach this resistance here at the current levels around 165. We are above the 200 moving average. Let's see if we do continue higher and challenge the 166, or we might come in and have a little correction after this nice move. We came all the way from 153 to 165. Nice move on Johnson & Johnson. Tesla, some analysts actually saying things in a way of downgraded the stock. They say the fundamentals are not so great. The stock did great recently, and that combination of fundamentals also we mentioned since the Twitter story is off the table, the stock started doing much better. And I don't know if you heard last week, it was all over the news that they had an argument between Musk and Zuckerberg, and they were ready to have a physical fight in the cage, but I guess it was canceled. So it's kind of funny. Teva is really trying to break through this 765 level. We mentioned it 2 weeks in a row. If you bring a weekly chart, so Teva's been trading between $7 and $11, and the traders sometimes enjoying the ride, buying it at the support and selling closer to resistance. So we are having a 3 consecutive weeks. The move is not that great. It's about a 50 cents move, but we are trying to move high here. So we'll be watching if Tesla manages to break out of this level and continue lower, or the opposite. Maybe we'll go and retest 7 again. And the last stock is Uber. The company just mentioned something. They opening a new line of business in a way that people will be able to share the private cars. That's kind of interesting. So the stock is doing great. As you could see on the weekly chart, it's been having a nice positive move, and we are facing kind of a resistance here. The high on this initial move on the 15th of June was 43.72. We are kind of struggling to break through that level. Let's see if we manage to do that. So that's on Uber. Okay, and the banks, of course, as I mentioned, we're having a stress test results this week. So take a look. JP Morgan being the strongest, it also sold from around 142 to 138, and the rest of the stocks in the banking sectors are much weaker. This is the Citigroup, as you could see, just sold with the gaps. Bank of America, the same thing. Even Goldman, which is the king of banking and brokerage, take a look what happened. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 consecutive days with a gap down and go. That looks like a panicky sell-off happening. So let's see what's next. If we continue lower, we might be retesting March level here with the 301.64, and we are getting also close to 200 moving average, which is currently at around 297.5. So again, banking sector is very important this week with the stress test, and we'll be watching that. So that's as far as equity indices and equity. We'll move now to commodities, and we'll start with oil that we mentioned. Oil is trading, as we said last week, between $70 and $80 with these tails all over the place. China is definitely not a great influence on oil, as things there slowing down, and that means that less oil will be used, logically speaking. So oil is having a weakness here. Copper as well. We had a nice move on copper to the upside, and then we sold in the last 2 days, and we hit the 50-day moving average here. So let's see if copper continues lower from this point. We are between the 50 and 100 moving average on the weekly chart, and it looks like we are making a lower lows and lower highs over here. So we might actually continue sliding lower, and I think on the weekly chart the 200-week moving average would be a possible next level to test. Gold has been showing a lot of weakness since we moved below this 1955 key level. We've been selling the whole week. Friday we tried to move, even at some point we were higher than the Thursday's high, but then we came in and again. So we closed at 1919. Some analysts are predicting 19, maybe 1850. It depends on a lot of things, of course, on inflation, to see what the dollar is doing, to see what the equity markets are doing, because gold is being affected by all of those aspects. So we are in between 100 and the 200 moving average here on the daily chart. Let's see how this week plays for gold. And cocoa, we spoke about cocoa. And if you remember, I mentioned to you this level here at 32, 33, and that's back in 2016. We did hit that level. As you could see, we even closed above it, and the past few days we are trading below. So it's a sign that we might be building resistance here and maybe slide lower and take some profits on that. Or if we go above that level again and start building the support, there's an opening for moving higher here. Platinum. Platinum has been super weak. As you could see in the weekly chart, we are sliding lower for some time since we hit this level back in mid-April, the high of 1148. We're trading at 919 now. So we are approaching the level of support here around 906, 907. And the buyers might be stepping in here. As you could see, it was a lot of actions around this level back in February, and then again, basically the whole February, there was a fight, and then we made a high from there. So we are getting closer to that level again. So that's platinum to watch this week. Natural gas is the last one I want to take a look at. It finally made that initial move. We broke again through 260. We closed at the highs on Fridays, which is very strong. And it looks like we are higher than this level here, 269.7 back on May 21st, a month ago. So it looks like we might be moving higher here and retest the $3 level. Or if we dive below again, we might go down and retest the lows again. As you could see, as we mentioned every week, pretty much on natural gas, this channel has been going for a while after a huge sell-off. So a lot of accumulations happening. Okay, and take a look on the weekly chart. Overall, it's the third consecutive week, and we are closing about the previous resistance here. So it could be that we'll see this move to the upside, and the $3 would be the first test. Because after that, we made a lower low here. So if we are moving higher, it's going to be another test around that level of 302. So definitely, we'll be watching natural gas this week. Okay, that's it with commodities. Let's move to Forex. We'll start with dollar index. I think the comments of Powell in front of Congress about the further increases in interest rate had a positive effect on the dollar. We had two consecutive days, Thursday and Friday, to the upside. We are trading above the 50 moving average, so there's a chance that this move will continue into the next week, and we'll be watching that as well. Now, as far as specific currencies, as I mentioned, Bank of England had a surprise, not a surprise, but it wasn't priced in a way. The 50 basis point interest rate increase. If you could see here, this is the announcement. There was a lot of spikes here. There was a range between 127.37, $100 range was the 30 minutes of the announcement, and after that we went down. I guess market decided that the pound is not really at the right levels here, so they push it lower. Now, if we are continue lower here, we might come to maybe another 50 pips to retest the level here, 126.63. As I mentioned to you, this is the level from which we sold back a year ago, the end of May, and then we retested again, and only 2 weeks ago we broke through it. So if we do come to that level again, it will be probably a nice fight or battle around that level, and let's see who wins, the bulls or the bears. We are getting close to that level, so we'll be watching that. Now, another interest rate decision was from Switzerland. It was a 1/4 of a point. Swiss franc has been super strong over here, as you could see on the dollar Swiss. We are trying to break to the upside. Dollar has been super weak against the Swiss franc. We just had this move a few weeks to the upside. We came right back. So let's see how this week shows for a Swiss franc. Now, speaking of Swiss franc and Japanese yen has been super low. As Bank of Japan, I think, is the only major central bank that hasn't done anything in order to increase the value of the currency. They didn't increase any interest rates for a long time. So over here, I just brought to your attention here, the level 159.88. Here you don't see it because this chart goes only back to, I think, 1999. But I pulled out the historical charts, and this level 159.88, you'll be probably shocked. This level was reached back in December 1979. So the CHF JPY at the historic level of how many years is that? That's 44 years ago. Wow, that's a lot. So we came to a level that wasn't there for 44 years. So definitely there's a big chance that this could be the top. We'll be definitely watching it. We can easily continue higher as nothing stops. The Swiss franc is strong and yen has been super weak since I mentioned that they didn't increase any interest rates. They didn't do anything to bring the yen higher. So we'll be definitely watching. If we do see that the instrument is diving again below 159.88 and start building resistance below that level, there is a chance that it will be some profit taking or correction to the downside. Definitely worth watching. And another one, USD ZAR, of course, had a nice recovery since this recent sell-off after making all-time highs. If you take a look at the weekly chart, we erased the previous week's losses to the pip. So we might continue looking to move higher and retest the highs again, or we might come down and retest this level here, 1849, the level that I mentioned a few weeks in a row. That's the level that we were facing a lot of resistance, and then we finally broke through it, came back. As you could see here, also we held for a while before breaking lower, and then after a few days we came out above again. So scenario number one, positive scenario for this pair, we're just going to move higher and try to retest the highs, or come down and try to retest this 1850 level, 1849 for possible support, and then continue lower. Or we can easily come below it and start rebuilding the resistance and move and test the lows. So let's see what's going to happen there. And USD CAD, definitely worth watching, as the pair has been super weak on the strength of Canadian dollar, which has to do with the increased interest rates, of course, and also the prices of oil had some recovery, so that affected the Canadian dollar in a positive way. So over here, we are on the weekly chart. We 1, 2, 3, 4 consecutive weeks to the downside, and as far as levels, we might see retest of the 200 moving average on the weekly chart. Let's see if that happens. Or we might see the strength of a dollar increasing or US dollar increasing. We might see a nice recovery. Let's see what happens. But it's been selling since around 1.36. It's about 450, 500 pips move. since a month ago. So some buyers might be looking at it with the idea of taking it to the upside. But as of now, it's been weak, and we need to see some strength in order for it to move higher. Okay, that's as far as Forex. And let's take a quick look at Bitcoin, which has been strong here. We had a nice recovery from the 25,000, and we are trading currently at 30,500. We briefly hit the 31,000 on the 23rd, and we are sitting here. So if you take a look at the weekly chart, it looks very nice here as we're trying to break out of this level that we faced, the high of 30,988. That was beginning of April. And if we do move higher and close above the 31,000, we might continue higher and see how high can we go from there. So that's it pretty much as far as the instruments. Again, I want to ask everyone, if you can, please subscribe to the channels. Please put the likes. Please share. Would be great. I would be highly appreciated. And of course, I want to wish everyone a great weekend. There's a little bit left of it, and get some rest, get some energy. We're going to have another exciting week. And just to summarize things that we spoke about, we had tensions with China, improvement with India, with the US, and we have some economic data being released this week that includes the stress test with the banks. We have new developments in the geopolitical area, that's the Russia-Ukraine war, and also internally in Russia, certain things are happening there. So it's going to be an exciting and busy week, that's for sure. And thank you all again. We'll be back next week. All the best.